Welcome back to the Rock Room and another episode of the Rock Your Divorce podcast, where we help men successfully navigate the divorce process in a healthy way. I'm your host, Stephen Valente. If you're like me, you may feel like your world is spinning out of control. You may feel overwhelmed trying to handle all the things that are being thrown at you each and every day. You may feel paralyzed and uncertain about your life and your future. And you may not be able to find the time for even those things that are important to you, which is causing overwhelming stress and anxiety in your life. If that sounds like you, then you are absolutely in the right place. Because in today's episode, I'm going to give you 5 top things that you can do to bring balance into your life, not only during the divorce process, but after. That sounds like something you're interested in, then plug in, turn it up, and let's hit the stage. As we discuss on this podcast, there are 7 key areas of your life that if you just focus on them each and every day, not only will you be able to navigate this divorce process in a healthy way, but you will absolutely be able to thrive afterwards. And the visual that I normally share with you all, of course, is that of a 7-channel mixing board, where each of those channels represents one of the key areas of your life that we discuss here on the Rock Your Divorce podcast. And the faders within those channels represents the amount of time or effort or energy or even focus that you have to give to each of those key areas of your life. And as I've said before, it's virtually impossible, especially during the divorce process, to find that equal balance of all 7 of those, whether it's during the day or during the week or what have you. However, what we're trying to do ultimately is to bring that balance into our lives, because that balance or that striving for the balance is really what's going to help us navigate that entire process in a healthy way. And it's going to set us up for that success and that thriving after this process is done. Because as I've said before, this is a very short window of your life. This is a very short season of your life. It is not going to be the way that your life is in perpetuity after this divorce process is done. So the work that you put in, the time, the effort, the energy that you give to these 7 key areas during the process, of course, is going to help you get through it. But it's really about what are we doing to set ourselves up to be the best possible men that we can be, not only for ourselves and for our children and for our communities after this process is done. So today's episode is really going to be focused on trying to find that balance within our lives, trying to bring some of the components that we talk about here on the Rock Your Divorce podcast into each and every day. That's going to help us get to that balance throughout the process. Some of the mistakes that either I've made or men that I'm coaching or have coached in the past that we make is really broken down into a couple things. The first one is we as men tend to sometimes hyper focus on 1 or 2 things. So if you look at the 7 key areas of our life, and if we as men don't make a very intentional focus to giving to all 7, we tend to kind of gravitate to 1 or 2 of them. And as I've said before, kind of as I was getting ready for the divorce process myself, the only 2 key areas of my life that I could find any help or any support or any, learnings about it was legal and financial. And again, I am not discounting how important financial and legal are to the divorce process and especially afterwards, but I felt like there was so much more missing to that. So, if you're going through this divorce process, or if you're, already in it, and you find yourself consumed by focusing on just the legal side of it, just the day-to-day divorce process, or how it's going to affect you financially, or you're worried about finances, you're not doing things to set yourself up for thriving in those areas after, you're really missing out. You're causing yourself more harm and more stress and more anxiety because you are too focused. So it's really about, again, taking a step back, taking a look at all 7 key areas, not just focusing on 1 or 2, but really being open to and being intentional to say, look, I know I have these 7 key areas, and I have to give myself time. I have to be intentional about that time. I have to, put some energy into all 7 of these each and every day, each and every week, because ultimately that's going to help me not only become the man that I know that I'm supposed to be, that God has intended me to be, but I will be able to navigate not only the divorce process itself and what it brings me, but ultimately, because this is only a season of my life, this is only a small portion of what my life is. I have a wonderful, thriving life afterwards. I have to be ready, to enter into that when the process is done. So let's not focus too much on 1 or 2 of the key areas, and really look at all 7 equally as we go about our day. The second thing that I'll say is, I've noticed that we as men tend to complicate our lives, during stress, during anxiety, during difficult times or difficult seasons of our life. And that might be by adding too many things in our life. Over scheduling. It might be kind of this, we're adding all of these things. We're overcomplicating our lives. And some of it is due to trying to fill voids, or trying to live in excess, right? Trying to rebel, or, kind of prove our worth, prove our need, all that other stuff. That some of those feelings happen to come through in the divorce process, right? So, when I take a look at the daily habits or the things that we're doing as men to, add to the stress, add to the anxiety, add to the uncertainty, we have to look ourselves in the mirror as men and know that we're probably the cause of some of those things, right? So it's about not complicating your life anymore, not bringing more on to an already tense or fragile situation that's going on in your life, and definitely not going out and trying to fill voids or live, in some sort of excess to try to prove a point. I think that, that's a very immature way of looking at it. That's not how, men should look at situations like this, or how they should handle situations like this. So I discourage you from doing those things, and I encourage you to, start making the right decisions, do the right thing. And we're going to talk about, uncomplicating your life here in a few minutes. Some of the other things that I've seen individuals do, and this is important, especially when it comes to relationships and the legal side of everything, is, the rigidity as men. We are very inflexible at times. We are very rigid about some of the things that we say and we do, and we're not open to learning. We're not open to being mentored. We're not open to having, positive, constructive criticism or feedback given to us. And by closing that off in our life, especially during this divorce process, you're really setting yourself up for failure, because there are, and we're going to talk about, coaches, and I've already talked about, spiritual mentors and finding a faith-based mentor. We're going to have discussions related to peer groups. We're going to have related to other types of coaches within your life, whether that's a financial coach or a physical coach or a therapist, which is kind of that mental and emotional coach. We're going to talk about bringing all of those people and their perspectives into our lives during this process, because it's not only going to help us get through it and utilize the best resources that we can, but by doing that, by not being rigid, by not being inflexible, by being open to coaching and criticism and learning, we are going to become far stronger and far greater as a man once this process is done. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is as we exit the actual divorce process, to be able to do that. On the opposite side of that, you've got a lot of guys that unfortunately live their lives by the seat of their pants. And that is a huge mistake if you take a look at kind of the divorce process itself, and what your life is going to be and should be after this process is done. I am a firm believer of setting goals. I am a firm believer of vision boards and keeping yourself in check and having accountability, not only from yourself, but from, mentors and from accountability partners across all 7 key areas of your life. But I can see that there are men out there. I've talked to them. I've coached them. I am friends with some of them or colleagues with some of them where, they're just kind of, good time Charlie. I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not worried about this. Or they kind of throw up their hands and they give in. And that's not good for them. It's not good for their children. And it's not going to help them achieve and succeed to be the best possible men that they can be when this divorce process is done. And those are the same men that will come back and complain and say that, the world is against them, nothing goes for them, they don't have anything in their lives, or their, former spouse or soon to be former spouse is taking advantage of them. It's kind of this like victim mentality and this, woe is me that these men end up having to live through. And again, if they were to look themselves in the mirror as men and see that they are a product of everything that they put forth into this world. You are a product of everything that you put forth into this world. So if you have no plan, if you have no vision, and you don't know how to get there, you don't know who you want to be, you don't know what you want to have, and you don't know how to get there, don't be surprised if you end up with nothing. Or, don't look at somebody and say, oh, they just got that because they were lucky, or they just got that because they know somebody. That's not fair to those people that actually go out and put a plan together and go out and perform. So my suggestion to you as a man is to look yourself in the mirror, figure out, what are your goals? What are your visions? Work your way back on how to get there. And we're going to have an entire episode about goal setting, about creating vision boards, kind of, the why behind it and how to do it in a future episode this coming season. So look forward to that. As we kind of round it out, I think along the lines of what I just described is that idea of self-awareness, right? So the qualities or lack thereof that I just talked about in men that, seem to have this victim mentality or this, the world is doing this to me, are also the ones that don't really have a self-awareness about what is going on, right? They haven't done the work to do a personal sound check. And I have an episode about sound checks and about, mental preparation, and it falls into your daily mindfulness routine. But really taking a true hard look at yourself, assessing your strengths, assessing your weaknesses or your opportunities for growth, and then being aware of those so that as you go through your day, each and every day, you're working on those things that you know that you need to do to become the man that you want to be, right? So self-awareness is it's a very strong characteristic. It's knowing, where are your strengths? Where are your opportunities? How do you work on those opportunities to have them become strengths or just not be as much of a weakness as it once was in your life? And I think self-awareness is part of that. And then lastly, I think, maybe I could have started with this, but ultimately it's about what are your clear priorities as a man? What is important to you? Who do you want to be, not only for yourself, for your children, for your community that you live in, and potentially somebody, if you decide to be in a long-term relationship or a marriage, again, who do you want to be for that person? Because, if you're not starting out knowing exactly who you want to be, what's important to you, what do you value, where are you going to put your time and your effort and your energy into, then you're kind of flying again without a plan. And that is not good for any man to do. Being a man says that I have a plan, I have a purpose, I have a vision, and I'm going to go out each and every day and I'm going to kill it, right? I'm going to absolutely drive myself with intentionality, being focused with intentionality, and I'm going to go out for the things that are important to me and that I believe in my life I am set here to do. Have those clear, focused priorities, understand what those priorities are, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can incorporate all of those things that I've talked about, all the mistakes that we make as men, and really put together a plan to bring that balance in your life. So how do we build this plan that gives us a different perspective of what it means to have balance in our lives, not only during the divorce process, but afterwards? Well, I'm going to encourage you to look at it through the lens of music and through the life of a rock star. So what do I mean by that? The first thing that you can do is consider that in each band, there are several different instruments. And in fact, in your life, as we talk about the 7 key areas of life, you have 7 instruments going on within your band of life. And each of those instruments plays a vital role into the sound as well as the identity of the band. And you are no different. So when you take a look at each of those key areas of your life as an instrument, playing too fast, playing too slow, playing too soft, playing too loud, it all has to come together and it all has to work together in unison for that. So finding balance in all of those key areas of your life, and you're going to have to make adjustments as needed. So I encourage you to take a look at that and know that, each of these key areas is vital. And by, taking advantage of each of them, by being attentive to each of them, and by making adjustments each and every day, you will absolutely be able to navigate the divorce process and thrive afterwards. The second thing I'd like to encourage you to do, and I've done this in several episodes already, in fact, there's a whole episode about it, is consider yourself as an instrument, right? Everything about you, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and through the 7 key areas, it's really who you are. It's your being. And taking care of your instrument, which in this case is your full overall body and being, is vitally important to finding balance in your life, right? It's tuning, it's retuning. And it's taking kind of this self-assessment or being self-aware of where you stand each and every day in all 7 of those key components in your life. And again, making those adjustments, right? Because, if you find yourself, needing rest, or you're mentally circling the drain, so you need to do things like journaling, you need to do things like meditation, or if you're looking at things like therapy to help with your emotions, right? All of those things are working together to help you as that instrument. Tune your instrument, keep your instrument working in the best possible level it was supposed to, what was created to do. And you are no different than that instrument. So again, bringing balance to your life means taking each of these key areas and knowing that, not only are you in this band, not only, are you in this life that you need to deal with all of the instruments that are going on, but you yourself are an instrument, and you need to take care of it so that you can perform at the level that you were created to do so. I also had an episode about set lists, right? And the idea of a set list is really managing the time that you have in your life, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. So there's going to be no excuses from any of us that I don't have the time to do something or I can't find the time to do something. The idea of a set list and why bands create a set list is this thing is planned. It is on purpose, right? There are songs that are put in different stages of that set list on purpose. And sometimes it's to create a feeling of acceleration. It's to bring emotion. Then there are some that you slow down kind of in the middle, kind of gives the band time to relax. It kind of gives the audience time to relax a little bit, and then you bring it up and you finish at the end. Your life is a set list, right? Your day-to-day is a set list. You need to take the time. You need to make the time to build habits and routines that are healthy and that are positive, that help you bring that balance into your life. And all of this is going to help you reduce stress. It's going to help you reduce anxiety. It's going to give you confidence that you kind of know what's coming. You have your routine, and even when things may hit you that are out of that routine or out of that norm, you have enough of a foundation where you can absorb that. You can handle that type of thing. So the third thing is really, again, look at your life as that set list and do what you need to do to bring balance to that set list, to bring balance to that day. That's going to really set you up for success and to help you thrive not only during the process, but after. One of the things that I'd like to also encourage you to do is simplify your life. Sometimes back in, there was a whole series on unplugged, right? That like bands that normally would have a lot of electric instruments or that were loud and everything would tune it all down, and they would do acoustic sets. Or we all like to sit around, hearing just a piano play, hearing just a guitar play, right? Hearing someone just sing a cappella, right? It's kind of that, bring it down to the most simplified form that you can enjoy, right? Sometimes you just need to simplify your life. You need to declutter the things, not only from your physical space, but also from your mental and in your emotional space, right? So I encourage you to really look at simplifying your life. I think I heard a quote that said, decide what kind of life that you want, and then leave everything else out that doesn't, go to that, or some quote like that. And I think that that's very important, because when we look at our values as a man, you need to know what you value, right? And you need to stand up for what you value, and your values should not waver, right? You also need to know what your priorities are, right? So what is important in your life? Why is it important in your life? And what are you going to do based on your values to make what's important in your life your priority? Because if you don't do that, you don't really have that what I'll call that North Star, or that guiding principle to you to say, this is what's important to me. This is why it's important to me. And this is what I'm doing each and every day to show that it's important to me, right? So all of those things combined, and by removing a bunch of the clutter, the noise, the feedback, and really going back down to that acoustic set, right? That, that feeling of simpleness in each and every one of your 7 key areas, I really feel like that's going to give you an advantage, because then it's all about building it up afterward. But you have to start, by figuring that out. And lastly, I think as men, sometimes we make the mistake by not setting boundaries. We put things to other things in our lives that don't fit our values, that don't fit our goals, that don't fit our priorities. It's really super important to protect our mental and emotional space, our time, our most valuable resource, which is time, and really set boundaries and expectations with ourselves, with the people that we love. Sometimes maybe it's with our employer, or if we own a business, with our employees, and have that foundation established based on, again, our priorities, our values, our goals, our belief, the vision that we want to end up becoming, not only during the divorce process, but especially after. So set those boundaries and make sure that they match your priorities and your values as a man. If there's anything that I've said that's either resonated with you or struck a chord with you, I ask that you go to www.rockyourdivorce.com, schedule a free 30-minute phone call with me, because I know that I can help you not only navigate this divorce process in a healthy way, but absolutely thrive afterwards. And while you're there, I ask that you like and subscribe to the Rock Your Divorce podcast. And if you know any man that's either starting this divorce process, or maybe has been in the divorce process for a while, or if they've recently become divorced and they're not thriving or they're not healing, I encourage you to send them here to the Rock Room by sharing the Rock Your Divorce podcast. That's it for today's episode. I look forward to seeing you here again in the Rock Room for another edition of the Rock Your Divorce podcast.